As soon as I open it, roaches. To where when I walk in the house,
did you scream?
You don't know my life, bro.
Welcome back to Econix Talks, guys.
When I pop up, everybody gonna be like, man, overnight success.
Lifestyle topics, entrepreneurship, and investing.
Are you serious about this? Because if you are, then I'm willing to back the business.
We want to inform you, educate you, and empower you so that you can maximize your life. Let's get started. Hey, it's Josh. Thanks so much for listening to Econix Talks, whether you're brand new to the show and to me, or if you've been listening since the very beginning. As you know, managing a podcast takes a ton of time when you're independent. If you've enjoyed the show, whether it's just an episode or many, and want to support, you can buy me a coffee. This will help cover expenses and make it just a little easier so I can continue to give you guys the best content possible. Click the link in the show notes or description that says support if you'd like to contribute. And again, thank you guys for listening. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Econix Talks. Today we have Antonio Dowels out of Tampa on the show today. So welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, man.
Thank you so much for coming by. Antonio he has a very interesting story, and we're going to get into that. But more importantly, he is a business lawyer. So today we're actually going to be breaking down a business structure, taxes. So he's also a tax attorney as well. And he's bomb.com, man. Antonio he's native and he's from Tampa. He's born and raised. There you go. Born and raised here. So he's definitely one of Tampa's own. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started with the interview. So my first question to you, Mr. Dowels, tell me a little bit about your story as far as just, why you wanted to become a lawyer, what your passion is as far as business is concerned. So we'll start with that one.
Well, I'm going to give you the skinny on it. Right. I never actually thought I was going to be a lawyer. I went to school to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was 6. So I was a biology major, did all the chemistry, then the organic chemistry. I was excited. My last semester, actually, I went and volunteered at a pediatric center and found out I didn't like being with crying kids all day. So I actually decided that I wanted to change my major. They allowed me to change my major at UF, go Gators, and end up majoring in sport management. And I wanted to be a sports agent. So then one of my mentors told me that I should go to law school to learn contracts and, learn about negotiations and other types of laws that, affect athletes, not just about what you see on TV with the money. It's other aspects of it. So I took the advice, went to law school down in Miami, and then end up being a general counsel after I found out I didn't want to be a sports agent. And to me, that was like babysitting. I didn't get that excitement that I used to. So I just ended up falling into being a lawyer. Took the bar because I was like, well, I went to law school, so let me just take the bar. I ended up passing it. So I was like, hey, I'm going to practice. And then really corporate and business law really struck me. And then, I like doing that type of stuff. I'm hands-on. I like puzzles, and a lot of times people come to me with problems, especially in the business aspect, and it's fun to help them be able to achieve what they want legally and be able to protect everybody.
Right, and that's extremely important as far as protection. So thank you for answering that question. So I want to discuss. Obviously, you've gone through some things in your life that that the average person hasn't seen, and the average person hasn't had to deal with. Yeah. So, would you mind telling us your story, just about your adversity that you've had to overcome, and kind of like how you ended up here today?
Yeah. Again, a skinny, because we could be here for a couple of hours, talking about my life. I don't like to talk about it that much, so I give people the skinny most of the time. But long story short, like you said, I'm here from Tampa. Grew up with a single mom. She had 3 kids. So, I grew up watching her work hard. So I always said that, I wanted to be somebody special. So I always listened to my grandma. All the older people told me to, put academics first, even though I was really good at sports. And so I did that. So I made, education number one. So I just knew that, after if I end up playing, in the NFL, because I was really good at football, that there is life after football, of course. So I always, made education number one. Well, when I was in my junior year of high school, I was running track just to stay in shape, and we actually made it to the state track meet. At that night, it was regional track meet, and when I was coming home right after getting my car at the high school, I was coming home here in Tampa, going north on 301, if you guys know the area, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, so I was real tired. You're running track, at for about 12 hours. You there at the track meet essentially, and so I was tired coming home, and I ended up falling asleep while I was driving, and then I ran the red light and ended up hitting a semi truck trailer, like running right underneath it. So I woke up and had blood and glass all over my face and stuff like that. Looked down, couldn't even move my hands, couldn't move my legs. And I kept blacking out. And then they had to airlift me to Tampa General here in Tampa, and end up having to do emergency surgery. And then when I woke up, they told me that I was quadriplegic. So that means I can't move basically 80% of my body. So I can't move my fingers or anything below my chest. But I make it happen. Like I said, that happened in my junior year in high school. But like I said, I'm a grandma's boy, so she always told me, you always have adversity, but if you want something, you're gonna get it, and God's definitely gonna see you through. So I took that and ran with it. Graduating top 10 in my class in high school, and I'm going to UF, and then subsequently law school, and here I am today.
And that's awesome, man. That's one of the most. He's one of the brothers that I've met with a very powerful testimony. And if you know him personally, he is definitely one of the hardest working individuals that I know personally. And it's awesome to see that about his story. And it's crazy because I wish we had time for him to tell actually the coolest parts about his story, but we'll say that for another day.
A lot of stuff. We could be here for hours, man.
But obviously, that was definitely a challenge for you, and I can't even imagine, the things that you've had to overcome.
Still do, man.
Still do, right? And
every day.
Always is always. So and I definitely understand that, just being around you and seeing it firsthand. So now moving on to business, how have you seen business in your life? Like what drew you to business law? What drew you to that, particular practice?
Like I said, I love business. I just knew, when I was younger, I always wanted to say I wanted to run my own business. Everybody, deep down, and, I feel like they want to own something and, run something to see, to challenge themselves and to, be proud of something that they've built themselves. So that always really intrigued me. And then when I was basically taking business law class, that just stuck with me. That was something I'm like, this is cool. All my other friends in the same class, they thought it was boring, all that dry stuff. But I do taxes too, so I guess I'm cool. But I like that dry stuff, the compliance stuff, and that really intrigues me. It excites me. And like I said, even though it seems like it's dry, it's a lot of complexities to it, based on the different structures, people on different stuff. And, there's always different ways to skin a cat. So I love to not only give them one option, but give them multiple options and stuff. And that takes some thinking, it takes some creativity. And sometimes you are very restricted by the law. But that again, that basically force you to be creative and think of different ways to achieve what your client wants.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are some of the challenges that you see, like common challenges that you see in a lot of small businesses?
Just not being educated. People just think that oh, I can just start a business and not even, either consulting an attorney. A lot of times you can do it by you don't need an attorney, but just you have a phone, right? You just go and Google stuff and they tell you this is what you have to do. They send you a link. But a lot of people, they don't try to educate themselves, right? Education is very important. So a lot of people start businesses and they don't try to protect their personal assets, which we're going to, I think we're going to go through that tonight. And, ultimately, if something happens, then they're personally liable. And it only starts with you being educated. So that's one of the big things as far as education. And that leads to other things as far as management, and planning. That's another big one. A lot of people don't like to plan. They just like to jump out there and then just hope that success is just going to hit them in the face when you already know that ain't how it happens. So you got to put in that work and you got to plan. So those are two biggest things, education and planning. Okay.
And education is so important, guys. When we talk about education, anybody that starts a business, whatever industry you're in, you should be eating, sleeping, and breathing that stuff. I mean, constantly being up to date with what's going on in your industry. Who are the market leaders? What are they doing right? How are they making their money? And you imitate that, and then you take pieces of what other successful businesses do, and then from there, you don't recreate the wheel. You just make it your own. And so that's the education piece and planning. I see a lot of people that from my experience, just don't know what to ask. That's one of the worst things I feel like when you just don't know what to ask because you just don't know. You haven't been taught.
Yep.
And so, that's what we're going to, break down tonight. So I want to break down business structures and we're going to go through each one of them, the most important ones. And we're going to talk about, what types of businesses are typically associated with these types of business structures, what advantages they have. And then we're going to go ahead and transition into the taxes as well. So we'll start talking about, a sole proprietorship. So what is a sole proprietorship?
A sole proprietorship is the basic structure, when you think of having a big business structure. There is essentially a person, you doing a business under your own name, essentially. A lot of times when people get the 1099s, independent contractor, that's your being sole proprietor. So that's the basic structure. You're not covered legally, so should something happen, they can sue you and they can come after your personal assets. So that's the basic structure, just you as an individual running your own business.
Okay. So why would somebody choose, or in what situation would someone choose a sole proprietorship?
Essentially that just being an independent contractor. So say if you is getting hired by someone and they just say, hey, you're going to be an independent contractor. You're not, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have an LLC like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to be doing business with my LLC with you. Generally, you just sign your name and just, all right, I'm going to do a cleaning service or whatever, they have you doing. So that's generally, that type of structure. And that's generally what you see, a sole proprietor existing. But I don't recommend that. Like I said, the key goal is to protect your assets. So regardless of how the structure is with you and an employer, if you're going to be an independent contractor, I would highly recommend that you start an LLC to protect you should something happens.
Thank you for that. So what is a partnership?
A partnership is essentially an agreement between 2 or more people or 2 or more businesses where they agree to share profits and loss, essentially. Okay.
And in what situation should someone consider a partnership?
If you want to go in the business, stay with your friend. If you have 2 smaller businesses and you guys want to do some limited, joint venture, you can do a partnership, or you can have a partnership, that lasts forever. But generally you'll see it like that, where 2 people say, hey, let's come together, let's make it a partnership and, run a business so we can share profits.
Okay. And so then obviously this one, an LLC or a limited liability company is a huge one. So we want to spend a little bit more time because most people will start an LLC. So what are some of the advantages, or why would someone choose an LLC over a sole proprietorship or a partnership?
The first thing is as far as like the liability. So a sole proprietor, there's no limit on your personal liability. So should you get sued, they can come after your house, they come after your car, come after your personal assets. Conversely, LLC, you're making a legal entity that separates your personal assets, with your business assets. So you're making a completely different business. So should something occurs, then, they'll sue that company and they can't essentially go after your personal assets. And the pro as far as having an LLC is the ease. It's very easy to start LLC. Here in the state of Florida, there's very small restrictions as far as what law they have for you to conduct yourself at the LLC. So you can get creative. So that's what I like with LLCs, because then we can do a contract. How do y'all want to, divvy out the profits and anything like that? Is there any other types of obligations? Just thinking about the minutiae. That's the really fun part.
Huh. He said minutiae.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, in what cases, same question, would someone use an LLC? Like what businesses are typically associated with an LLC?
Small to medium businesses, especially ones that you're not trying to, I would say, be on the stock exchange, to sell stocks and things like that. Typically, if you're not going to do that, I just recommend them to do a LLC, because like I said, easy to create. There's not many administrative requirements for you to, have to file. There's only like the annual report and, other small reports that you have to do, as opposed to, with a corporation, which we'll get to, which there's a lot of stuff that you have to do with a corporation because you are dealing with securities. So LLC is the general route to go, unless they want to, like I said, expand and want to sell securities to have people own it.
Okay. And so obviously, guys, with LLCs, a lot of people have them. So it's definitely one of the more common business structures out there. Now we want to move on to a C Corp. So we can just cover the C Corp and the S Corp at the same time. You just want to compare the two. So can you explain the difference between a C Corp and an S Corp and what advantages are associated with each one?
Yeah. So let me start with, when you generally see a corporation, so yada yada corp, right? There generally are a C Corp. That's the C Corp is they probably have multiple types of stocks. They sell them on the stock exchange and, on the secondary market. So that's generally what a C Corp is. What an S Corp is simply it's a smaller corporation. It's kind of like a hybrid between an LLC and a C Corp. There's tax advantages to S Corp. S Corp, you only can have up to 100 shareholders. So it's very small, like a small intimate corporation. And then as far as taxes, you get taxed twice with a C Corp. As far as S Corp, you only get taxed once.
Can you explain like why someone would get taxed twice?
As far as corporation, that's the only one that gets taxed twice.
Okay.
Because you get taxed at the corporation level. And then if they give out money or dividends to the shareholders, then the shareholders get taxed. So that's what they mean by double taxation.
Okay.
As far as S Corp, the profits and the loss go straight to the members. So it doesn't get, taxed at like the corporate level. It only gets taxed at the individual level.
Okay. That makes sense. So this is one of the questions that I've had for a while. Why would someone start, or is it possible for someone to start out as a C Corp or an S Corp as opposed to an LLC if they know where they want to go? So even if you don't have, let's say you don't have any employees, you haven't made a dime yet off of your business. Is it smart to start a C Corp or an S Corp?
Yeah, it's smart to do it, but again, it's just a lot of formalities, right?
Okay.
You have to elect the directors. You have to have your bylaws and all that type of stuff. So you also need an annual report. the shareholders annual meeting you have to have. So those are required by the state. So that's just that. It's a lot of management that you have to stay on top of with, S Corp. You have to stay on top of all of them. But as far as having a C Corp, that it has a lot of formalities. So it's a lot of stuff. You have to have secretaries. You have to have meetings. So that's the only reason people start off as the LLC and then they convert it to a C Corp when they're ready.
And that's what I was going to ask you as well. Is it possible to start as like the sole proprietorship or a partnership and transition it over into any other of those entities? Is that
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can either do something called a conversion. So you convert the original structure to a new one, or you can actually create a new one that actually ends up buying the assets of it. So you can either merge it or you can buy it outright. But here in Florida, you can easily convert your business from one structure to another one.
Okay, great. And so now I want to move on to the nonprofit corporation. So that's one that's not common, but a lot of people do start, nonprofits. So
it's more common than people think.
Okay.
Because people were reaching out to me last year. A lot of people thinking about starting a nonprofit because you don't get taxed on it and you're doing a public service. So it's very important. That one essentially a lot of people, when they think about a nonprofit, they think about it being a corporation. One thing people don't know, you can be a nonprofit at the LLC, you can be a nonprofit at a C Corp, and you can be a nonprofit at the S Corp.
Can you explain that?
Oh, so the nonprofit is only being taxed, right? So essentially, nonprofit meaning that you're not making any profit, so you get to conduct yourself tax free. So your entity will be an LLC, S Corp, but as tax wise, when you become a nonprofit, when you think about that, that essentially is a 501c3. So you're getting the tax benefits of not being taxed. So you can be an LLC, a C Corp, or S Corp, and and still get the 501c3 tax, being nonprofit essentially.
Oh, okay. That does make sense.
Yeah. There's a business structure and then the business, how it's being taxed. Those are two separate things. So when you can be a nonprofit, that's basically how you're being taxed, which is not at all.
Okay. That, you know what? And when they have a nonprofit, that's exactly what they had, a tax exemption form. That does make sense. So now that we've covered some of the business structure, I would like to talk about some business practices. So what I would like to discuss first, and I think a lot of people don't realize this is something that they really need in their business, but can you explain when and why it's important if you're partnering with someone, or just in general, why an operating agreement, what it is, why it's important, how it protects your business, that kind of thing. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah. So operating agreement, essentially what it says is how you operate your business. I recommend, even if you are a single member LLC, you still need an operating agreement because you are running your business like a real company. So you should do the formalities that, it takes to run a business, especially your legal formalities. The operating agreement, especially when you have multiple people, I always tell people that it's to help you legally, just in case something happens, you have some kind of disagreement. That is a contract between you as members as well as the company itself. So it allows you to do certain things, and it also restricts you from doing certain things. So that's why it's very important to have an operating agreement, because it dictates how you run your business and how duties and other things are ran. So for example, say if you have two members in an LLC, and one person contributes 20,000, another contribute 10,000. And the operating agreement, obligates you to, make quarterly deposits, right? As one person doesn't do it, you can force that person to do it. Or another example, if, somebody wants to buy in, you have to go in accordance to the operating agreement. So you should always, make changes, and you should always get an operating agreement before you create your business. Don't do it well after, because then you're basically at the mercy of the courts, because then he said, she said kind of thing. So
right. And so obviously, operating agreements are extremely important. So guys, even if the person isn't on the business, even if they aren't listed on your LLC, let's say you're just partnering with someone on a business venture, an operating agreement is what irons out those details. Like he was saying, to how payments are going to be made out. I mean, you can put pretty much anything in an operating agreement. It pretty much, if you want to iron out details on pretty much anything and how your business is run, that document is almost like your Bible for your business. It's essentially what it is, because those are the rules that the two or whatever parties are in that agreement. You all collectively agree to these things, and these are standards. So if there's ever a disagreement, you go back to the operating agreement, because it's essentially there to hold you accountable and to keep you honest.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of it. So definitely, if you're starting a business with someone, or if you're thinking about bringing somebody on, look into getting an operating agreement.
And let me clarify, operating agreements are for LLCs. C Corps and S Corps have bylaws, and partnership have partnership agreements. So those are all separate under their own, purviews.
But they do, I'm assuming they do the same thing.
Yeah. They just call it something different.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And again, in the state of Florida and other states and stuff like that, there's laws and statutes of what you can and can't put in certain, business structures.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the C Corp is more restrictive. So there's stuff that you can't put in there because it's against the law.
Okay. So is an operating agreement, how does that differ from a contract just in general? Is there a difference?
There's no difference. Like I said, it's a contract and agreement between the members as well as the company. So that is a standard contract.
Okay. So one of the questions that I get constantly, people always want to know, how do I not pay taxes? How do I not do this or not do that? How do I, avoid, protecting the business? Can you explain, only from a business structuring standpoint, how someone would layer their business to, because they have all these different kinds of ways. Mm-hmm. Can you break that process down?
As far as layer.
So when you protect your business and not say hide it, but you have an entity that owns that business.
Oh, yeah.
So you pierce it. Yeah. So can you break that whole?
Okay. You mean like a business owning the business?
Yes.
Okay. So I get that question a lot. So a lot of people, they have these dreams, to have, one parent company, because that's essentially what you're asking. A parent company owning subsidiaries. So that's all, daughter and brother companies underneath it. So the way you do that is whatever structure you want to make it, LLC, the parent company can be an LLC, an S Corp. LLCs can own S Corps, and S Corps can own LLCs, and C Corps, they can own each other. It's just, again, there's different tax benefits and advantages to each one of them. But the way that you do that structure is you create the parent company, and then essentially when you create the subsidiary, you'll just have the parent company own it. So that's essentially, so the owner. So when you're on Sunbiz and have to create that new company, when they say what a member, or you can put an individual name or a company name, and that's essentially how you do it. You'll put the company names, so the company will own the subsidiaries. That's essentially how it works.
So if somebody sues that company, are you protected, or do they get the assets?
Each one of them are protected. That's why you do that. That's an advantage. So that's why people, instead of having one company that do multiple things, and they would probably doing business as. So in Florida, that's called a fictitious name. So you can have one business that do multiple things and be called multiple things. But again, if you get sued, for one of those, business streams or avenues, they'll sue the whole company. Conversely, if you have a parent company that owns subsidiaries, one of the subsidiaries gets sued. Generally, they'll only go after that subsidiary.
Would they be allowed to go after the parent company as well, or certain is that case by case?
Case by case. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And can you explain how people put businesses into trusts?
Business and trust?
Yeah.
As far as owning, yeah. So that's another way of planning your estate, essentially. So you put the business in a trust, and then you have your beneficiary. So just say if you want your kids or grandkids or something like that, the trust or the shares or whatever, how you own that actual business will be in a trust. And then, like I said, at some point, the trust will become in what is called irrevocable, meaning that it's locked in, meaning you can't make the changes. Sometimes that's when the actual person that makes the trust dies. Then it'll essentially then be passed along to the beneficiaries.
Okay.
And you can put a business in a trust, to basically benefit your kids should you die. That's essentially helping to manage your business so nobody don't buy it out or something like that.
And how does that protect you legally? Or does it protect you legally, putting a business in a trust? Is there a benefit to it?
As far as legally, no, because then, it only goes after the assets in your business. So as far as legally being sued, if you're asking that, no, it doesn't really change it. It just, again, they can't come after you personally.
Okay, great, which is good.
Yeah.
And I actually would like to break that piece down, and then we can go ahead and transition over to taxes. Why would somebody want to protect their business? Like, why is that so important?
Their business?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, like you put your blood, sweat, and tears in it, so a lot of people would naturally want to protect their businesses. A lot of time they want to protect it from, people coming to try to buy them out. Protect them from family, or steer the business to a certain family member. So there's always benefits to trying to plan, especially for the future, to protect yourself and to protect your business.
Okay. Thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. So I want to transition over to taxes. So we just broke down business structures and that whole deal. So the first question I have as far as taxes, how can someone reduce their tax bill? That's everybody wants to know.
Yeah,
how can I pay less taxes?
Yeah. Again, it goes back to education, man. Because there's a lot of expenses that a lot of people just leave on the table. Whether it's like meals, one of them is buying furniture. A lot of people don't take their mileage, so it's just, again, education, because there's a lot of expenses that you can, utilize and use to lower your income that a lot of people don't use.
So what are some of, just in general, what are typically things that you can add, to your tax deductions?
Like I said, mileage, purchase that you can get your meals as an expense. You can definitely get what's another, rent. So a lot of people, they don't know if you working out of your home, right?
So a lot of people
do, and a lot of people got offices like we're in right now.
Right.
You can actually, since this is your dedicated office space, you can actually expense a portion of your rent, your lights, your phone bills. If you have homeowner insurance, you can expense some of that. And use that expense. So a lot of people don't know that stuff. If you actually renting a location, you can, that's an expense that you can actually, have go towards your taxes and reduce your income. So a lot of people just don't know about that stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of people, it's, when you start working for yourself, you start looking for like, okay, what can I claim or what can I put on my taxes to make sure that I keep that number as low as possible. Yeah. As far as deductions, what kind of deductions can entrepreneurs qualify for, or even people that work from home?
Yeah. As far as deductions, there's a lot of deduction. Like I said, I know we're going to probably get into standard deduction and itemized deduction. So there's a difference between expenses and deductions, right? So there are the expenses is when you have a business that basically reduce your income in the business. As far as deductions, that reduces your tax income. So that is so your medical bills, itemized deductions. What else? Homeowner, your property insurance, or your property taxes. That's itemized deductions. And then as far as standard deduction, that is an actual standard number that the IRS have come up with. Each year it rises. That once you calculate your income, that standard deduction is a standard number that deducts from your income to reduce your tax liability.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to circle back to was interest. So one of the things that a lot of people may not be aware of is you can actually claim interest on credit cards, your
business credit card.
Like, let's say you work out of your home mortgage. So you can't claim your mortgage, but you can claim the interest that you've paid on your mortgage. As
not the whole amount, but again, depending on the size of your office, you can deduct that amount. So say if your office is 100 square feet and your house is 1,000, right? And then your interest again is $100, then you can deduct or expense $10 out of that. So 10%, because your office is 10% of your house. So you can do that portion. But as far as loans, you can actually expense the interest.
Even business loans?
Business loans. Even personal loans that are used for business purposes. You still can deduct that the interest as an expense.
Okay. And I wanted to break that down because a lot of people are not aware that they can utilize that stuff. And
again, it goes back to education,
right? I learned that.
That's not something that I learned in the tax book. That's something I just Googled. I was like, hey, can you deduct more, and a different type of stuff. Yep. So that was just something you especially being a tax attorney, you can't know everything. Right. So you just go to Google, and then I go to the tax statutes, but essentially you just Google it. So that was something that I did.
Can you say that? Can you say that again? You just do what?
Google it first. The basic.
It's super. You know what? I think a lot of people. Everybody hates taxes. Like that's just facts. But one of the things that I feel like, especially for a lot of small business owners, they think that taxes are not in English. The taxes. The laws and the explanations, they're in English, and they really aren't hard to understand. You take a little bit of time. I mean, you can go to YouTube University and just watch a 10-minute video on what taxes you can, deduct. Yeah. You can listen to this podcast. You can also, shameless plug, share it with somebody who is a small business owner that needs this type of information. Mm. So as far as tax credits and tax deductions, which is better on that front?
They both help you, of course, right? So they both reduce your taxes. However, a tax credit, it reduces your taxes. So the taxes that you owe, dollar by dollar. So it reduces the taxes that you owe, dollar for dollar. So say if you owe $3,000 and you get a $2,500 credit, that's going to reduce your taxes to $500, right? Conversely, a tax deduction, that reduces your taxable income. So it only lowers your income, but it might not, it most likely it will not lower your tax that you are liable for by that much.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a credit, generally is better.
Okay. So can you deduct medical expenses?
You can, but unless you have a significant amount of medical expenses, it will not really benefit you. I say that because medical bills fall under the itemized deduction. And like I said, 90% of the people who file their taxes don't use the itemized deduction because their, amount. So the medical bills, the home, property taxes, it doesn't rise to the level that it exceeds the standard deduction. So, if it doesn't, then you basically take the standard deduction. So you can use it, but unless it's a significant medical bill or, you accumulated a lot of medical bills over the year, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to use it.
Okay. So how can people stay up to date with, different tax laws and the changes? What's some good resources for people?
The IRS.gov.
Okay.
They put out a lot of summaries. I know a lot of the major news outlets. So I would say like the New York Times and stuff online, they put out, summaries of the new tax law. Those are, again, good resources that I go to myself, especially IRS, because they're the ones that make changes every year. So I just go there and then they just summarize it, and then or you can just go ahead and look at the new law, the statutes, if you are a nerd like me and like to read it. Convoluted and complex, but if you like to do it, you can go there.
How is each business entity taxed? I know we briefly touched on it, but I want to go into that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah. So first, as far as sole proprietor, again, you're getting taxed personally. So that goes directly to you as a person. You generally get a 1099. So you not only have to pay federal taxes, but you have to pay self-employment tax, which a lot of people do not realize. So when you are an employee, I know we're probably going off on something, but when you are an employee, you pay half Social Security and Medicare, and your actual employer pay the other half. But when you are a sole proprietor, you're not, you have to essentially pay both. So that's essentially what self-employment tax is, because you're not paying the government, Medicaid and Social Security. So a lot of people that, when they ask me to help them do their taxes, they're very surprised that they get hit with this, foreign tax, but it's essentially self-employment tax because you're self-employed. Secondly is the LLC. If you are a single member LLC, generally, again, you basically tax like a sole proprietor. It'll go on your personal taxes. And essentially, when you do your taxes, there's something called a Schedule C. And that's where you put, if it's the LLC, you put the name, and then that's where you put your income and then your expenses and deductions. And then again, that goes on your personal taxes. Next is the C Corp. As far as C Corp, again, I told you that's double taxation. So it starts off with you doing your corporate tax return. And then should the corporation, provide dividends or some other compensations to the shareholders, they are, taxed as well. So that's why it's called double taxation. As far as a S Corp, they are, again, that's what is called a pass-through corporation. Again, the income and the expenses and, the profits goes directly to the shareholders. So that goes on your personal taxes. So like I said, the income, the expenses, and then lastly, a partnership. That goes on your personal taxes, and that's generally your percentage of income and expenses is generally allocated to the percentage of ownership you have in that partnership. So say if, you have a profit of $100, but you own 60%. So then 60% of the profit will go to you, the 40 will go to the other partner. So
okay,
that's how it is. And it'll go on your personal taxes.
So what if someone can't afford the amount of taxes that they owe? So let's say they do their taxes and they come back and say, well, this year you did this, and this, you owe $5,000. Let's say you can't afford that as a business. Mm-hmm. Are there any resources to help them with the IRS? Yeah.
There's a lot of resources. First one is, if you can't pay it right then, right, you can do what is called a payment plan. A lot of people don't know about that, where you can either, pay it yourself monthly, so you personally pay them each month, or you can get it, automatically, withdrawn out of your account. So that's the first one. The second one then is to, it's called an offer and compromise. So if the amount is so much that you cannot pay it personally, then you would have to, do an offer and compromise, which is essentially telling the IRS that you cannot pay it. And they get very invasive. So they want to know all your assets, see what's in all of your bank accounts and stuff to see if you actually can pay it. And they do this very basic calculation, and based off that, then they'll let you know if they will accept your offer and compromise or not. Other than that, then you kind of out of luck. You got to pay them taxes.
And typically, if you owe that money, there's something you could do in your business to prepare and plan. And we talked about that lack of planning. You got to plan for taxes. How much, just this rule of thumb, how much would you say somebody should put aside for taxes?
I always tell them at least 20%. So especially if you are LLC, because LLCs and partnership, that again, you get hit with the self-employment taxes. So I tell people to, do 20 to 25%. I know that's rough, but if you are owning your own business, again, you're going to be hit with, additional taxes because you are running your business. So I always tell them, at least 20%, because generally at the end of the day, when you have to file your taxes, you only have to pay a little bit.
Okay.
If any.
Okay. And the last question on taxes, just can you give us some of your best practices for helping people manage their taxes, like how to keep up with them? Because obviously, even for myself, man, like sometimes it gets a little annoying to have to you got to go figure out where this went, where that went, where this went, where that went. So obviously, there are ways and things that can help people. So Can you give us some of that?
The first thing is to keep all your receipts. I repeat, keep all your receipts, because, you have to corroborate, your expenses, that you're claiming. So a lot of people, I'm like, hey, where's all your stuff? And then they want to try to guess. But me being a tax attorney, I can't take your guess, right? Especially because I got to cover my own, So the first thing is keeping your receipts. And, there's a lot of apps and stuff that you don't have to keep them physically. We have a lot of technology these days. So that's the first one, keeping your receipts. Secondly, you probably want to either utilize a third-party service, someone personally or something like that do taxes and stuff to handle your stuff. I know a lot of business owners, you're only working with them, only like 2 or 3 times out of the year. So it's not that much money. You can do that. So that's another option. Or you can do, one of them online options as far as like Intuit. So what is that program called?
TurboTax, I think.
TurboTax, but it's for all of your paying people QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is a very, very good application that you can. It handles all your stuff. You just have to input. So that's another option. So those are three good options. Third party. Well, I think that was only 2. So third party or QuickBooks. And then the last one was just keep your receipts, because you need to, keep all your receipts to help you. Okay. But a lot of people, number one, they don't keep receipts. And number 2, if they do keep receipts, then it's all over everywhere. And then they're scrambling last minute, and that's very stressful.
And I want to put a pin in that, because explain what happens if somebody submits their taxes and then the IRS says, well, now you have to get audited. Like, what is that process? Is because I know some people may have gone through that, or why would somebody have to get audited? Can you just break down that?
Yeah. It's very, very difficult to explain why people get audited, but they do have a system where just if something is wrong, or something that doesn't,
red flags.
Red flags, essentially.
So what would be a red flag for the IRS to pull your cord? Be like, y'all might be
what
tripping.
I see sometimes is people, they would have an exorbitant amount of expenses. So say if, they put their income, not to say when you start your business, you do not, incur a lot of expenses, but just say if someone say, oh, I only got $10,000 this year in income, but my expense is like $500,000, but they don't have no proof of them having a loan or any type of that type of. That's a red flag, because now you're getting that benefit of a negative $490,000 that now you can reduce your taxes. So those are big red flags, just like those those numbers that seem a little off. And they have some kind of little program or something like that. But
in other words, don't lie on your damn taxes.
Don't lie on your taxes, please.
All right, so now I want to shift over to the Econix 10, and I'll let you get out of here. So, and I want to say thank you for breaking down business structures and just taxes in general, because a lot of people do not like talking about taxes, and a lot of people don't understand like what business entity should they choose for their business. So now we're going to move on to the Econix 10, and the first question is, what would you title this chapter in your life?
Going up the mountain hill. I was just grinding, man.
I feel it, bro. I feel it. And number 2, what superpower would you have?
Ooh, superpower. And you didn't hit me with the powwow. I would say super strength, man.
I feel that.
Yeah, I just want to hit somebody and just make them go like a whole half across the earth.
Man, you don't have these people on here like the boys. You ever? I know you watch the boys. Oh my God.
Yeah, sometimes somebody just cut me off.
Don't walk into the street.
Grab them and just slang their car. I just playing. I'm playing, y'all. I do something. I'll go to Africa and then I just pick up stuff for
pick up rocks, just throw them into space.
Not to throw them into space. I go help out the needy, man.
I ain't mad at it, bro. I ain't mad at it. Number 3, what would you invest in right now if money was not an issue?
My health more. Just to be honest,
that's real.
The one thing a lot of people don't, put as a priority, because you only as good as you are, at that current time. So a lot of people, they try to work so hard and stuff like that and don't put as much work in their body, and then wonder why, they're burnt out and, just exhausted, and then they fizzled out. So you always need to put your health first.
Thank you for that. And number 4, if you weren't a lawyer, what would your other profession be?
A doctor.
This dude.
I still think now, man.
For real?
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
Look,
You crazy.
I ain't want to be a pediatrician. So if somebody told me about if I can be a traveling doctor, I'll be over there in Sri Lanka right now. Living it up.
Number 5 dinner guests, dead or alive, who's coming?
Of course, Martin Luther King, my frat brother. Obama, Jesus. Put him at 3, bro.
Yo, Jesus sliding up in here. What's up, boy? Jesus?
Who else?
Shout out to Jesus, man. Y'all. Hey. For real. Shout out to Jesus.
Rosa Parks, number 4. And then probably like my great granddaddy, so I can see where I come from.
That's what's up. Number 6, your celebrity crush.
It was always Jessica Alba, man. When I was
she a baddie.
Yeah,
Jessica Alba, a baddie. Number 7, something that the average person would not know about you.
I'm very introverted. A lot of people don't know that about me. I might see it outgoing and stuff like that, but I'm just a person that like to do work and go home. That's about it. But it just my line of work called me to be out there in the public, so I do what I'm called to do.
I ain't mad at it. Number 8, what is your favorite productivity hack? So how do you get things done? Like, what's something that you do on a normal to get things done?
Play some really good gangster music and get into my office and close the door and have the lights off. Oh, you telling me I'll be a little
that's real
vampire, bro.
That's real, bro.
Like, I like my music, bro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I do, man.
I ain't mad at that. Number 9, name 3 most influential people in your life.
My mom, my grandma, and then You, of course, my brother.
Oh no, don't do that.
Come on, bro.
Nah, don't put me up there.
What you mean, man? That's why I'm here. Could you influence my life, man?
Whatever, man. Number 10, PB&J or a
PB&J, I can eat that every day.
Nah, man, I love PB&Js.
I love grilled cheese, but man, PB&J is good.
Yep,
man.
PB&Js are fire. So the last question I have for you is very simple. What advice can you give to any aspiring lawyer? What can you tell them? And I know that's something that we didn't plan on talking about, but you know, there are a lot of people out here, a lot of younger people who listen to the podcast who are, you know, in college. So what's some advice you can give them just about law school, you know, the myths, the the truths?
Yeah.
Break it down.
My advice, man, is just to stay true to yourself. There's a lot of stuff that go on in law school, believe it or not. It's just like a bigger version of high school. So I always tell people to stay true to yourself because you can get lost. Because it's very hard, man. You up all night reading cases and stuff, especially your first semester. It's basically like they drop you in China and tell you, you need to learn Mandarin in basically 4 months. You're like, wait, what? What am I doing? So always be willing to ask questions, you know, even if you don't know what to ask, just ask, man. That would always be. I always just raise my hand and I was like, I know this is a stupid question, but, you know, because again, your goal as an attorney is to try to explain something to, you know, the most youngest person in the room. So if you can explain it to a 3-year-old child and they get it, then you did your job. So I would just tell people, you know, ask questions because a lot of people, you know, they just stay quiet. And then by the end of the day, you know, when it's time to take this exam, then they have all these questions and stuff like that. Or they don't have, you know, they don't ask at all and they end up going to practice. And that can be, you know, very detrimental to your clients. So I always ask questions. Another thing is, again, plan. Planning, I can't stress that enough because a lot of people just go and just try to wing it. And in law school, you can't do that. You got to be very disciplined. It's very grueling. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. So that'll be the top 3 things I would you know, advise an aspiring law student who wants to be an attorney.
And the last question I have is tell everybody how they can find you, where to follow you, if they want to, you know, reach out to you for any business consultations. How can we get in touch with you?
You can hit me up on Instagram. It's Antonio Dowels at Antonio Dowels. You can hit me up email. So that's Dowels at dowelslaw.com.
That's DOWLES. For those of y'all.
It's ELS actually.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, all right. Everybody make that mistake. So it's DOWELS.
Dyslexic, bro.
That's pretty much it. You can call me. My business number is 813-300-1350. And yeah, those are the ways you can get at me.
All right. And guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We are out. Y'all have a good one. Like, share, subscribe.
Peace.
Peace.